Well, hello! It's time for another exciting episode of Pens in Use. It's getting to be a regular thing for me to upload this late. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm burning out or what's going on, but yeah, it's just getting to be a thing. And this week will be kind of interesting. So let's dive into the writing sample first. Writing sample number 2. Well, I have a few things to add. I originally recorded this last night. I wasn't real thrilled with how I did, and I decided to re-record again today, Monday, Labor Day. And I ran into a few things, both good and bad. So I'll start with a good. The seafood flavored Bomo Art Journal is now empty. I will be switching to the solar system themed Bomo Art Journal for probably the next year or two till I have to buy another one. So, I did record this last night, but wasn't thrilled with it, so I'm going to try again. But there was an interesting development since then. So, this is the tray that I've left my pens sitting on. And you can see there's a stain of liquid in it. And so I didn't have too many pens sitting on it. I was still kind of figuring out which pens to include because I have more than 10 inked up. But anyway, I have a bottle of disinfectant cleaner. I had it in the living room because I was looking up just looking up information about it, trying to understand it better. And it had tipped over. And apparently it leaks around here when it tips over, because that's what all this is. Well, most of my pens, thank God, were not sitting here, but one was. And I am blaming the fact that this side is what was laying here for this disaster. Because I can't think what else would cause that. Just the crazing of the plastic. And I mean, it is cracked. So, a very expensive pen to have that happen to it. But, then I start looking at the active ingredients. And I maybe can see possibly why that happened. But that's weird. It's... if it dropped, I can't even picture, an expensive pen like this, believe me, I'd know if it dropped. I just can't picture it doing that if it dropped. So, I don't understand the damage to it, but, I haven't been buying pens lately. I like this one enough that I will be replacing it, but man, what a sad day. Sad day for me. So... yeah, that whole being clumsy thing. Don't do it. So when you see my pens sitting on something else tonight, that would be why. So enough bad news. Let's look at the pens with one missing, awkwardly enough. Oops. And I did decide to order some more of those trays because, I didn't want to use one that's stained and could possibly be responsible for damaging a pen. And I didn't want to, this does not show the pens as well. It does visually, but not on camera. So this will not be my regular thing. But anyway, the pens in use this week. Wahl-Eversharp Skyline. Vintage. Wahl-Eversharp Skyline 50. Modern pen. Nakaya, I forgot now. Somebody told me how to pronounce it. Decapod Twist. I think I'm really glad this one wasn't in the path of that liquid. Schaefer Legacy 2. Who knows what the ammonia in that liquid would have done to this. Maybe nothing. I forget what it's plated with. A vintage pen, the Montblanc Monteverde, and I called a Turquoise because I don't really have a model number for it. Another pen that I'm glad wasn't laying in that disinfectant, an Aurora 88 in the Jupiter finish. Waterman Carène. Maybe another one I'm glad wasn't laying in that. Platinum 37... Well, okay, I'm glad none of them were laying in it. Let's just get real here. Platinum 3776 with the Shengyo finish. And finally a Pelikan M1000. And since, with the damage to that... with the damage to the pilot, let's just substitute a pen. Platinum. I accidentally brought it home. I've filled this once or twice since school started. This is one of the batch of pens I took to school. Surprisingly, I haven't used any of the others up, but then I think about it, I use a lot more black ink at school than I do any other color. So, we'll just substitute in a Pelikan Stola. So, I don't know if the damage was done when I filmed this. Ooh, wow. The paper is definitely bleedier. Not good. I don't know if the damage was done last night, and I just didn't notice it, but, you know, I was using a pilot, but, oh my god. Okay, if this notebook is going to be like this, tonight's Pens in Use may be the last time I bother with it. I've said nice things about Bomo Art Journal, but if they're going to bleed like that, I am not happy. And maybe, okay, yeah, regular writing. It shouldn't do that. And I haven't had that problem before, but, you know, the paper is quite different. And I'll just point out, in the old one, I did that almost 2 years ago, but it didn't even bleed through. You may be about to watch history being made. You may be about to witness the end of the Bomo Art Journal in Pens in Use. Because this will not be acceptable. Let's see how this goes. Now let's look on the back side. Yeah. If I'm going to do ink swatches, that's just not acceptable. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, you've witnessed the end of an era. I am really depressed now. Holy cow. Even more depressed than I was over that Pilot Custom 823. Damn it. So yeah, you've just witnessed the end of an era. I will no longer be using the Bomo Art Journal in my videos going forward. So I'm going to turn off the camera, perhaps shed a tear or two, maybe have a funeral for my pen, and I'll be back with the rest of this. God damn it. Alright, so Pens in Use will continue. I'm going to use a cognitive surplus notebook, and I decided, let's continue with the seafood flavored theme for a while. So these are all cephalopods, but I'm okay with that. They're seafood. So first thing, let's just see how it does. I think it's going to do well. I've generally been content with these. They're not perfect, but they are good paper. Yeah, no bleed through. I think I can live with that. So my first pen is going to be this Wahl-Eversharp Skyline. It's a vintage pen from the 1930s. And I Has a very nice nib on it. And I got to look here. Oh, I'll just look in this other notebook, see what ink I used. Because I'm going to repeat the same thing tonight, right? So Wahl-Eversharp Skyline, and the ink is Colorverse Pale Blue Dot. Now this is one of those inks I'm trying to use up. It's in a very, very small bottle. I mean, I like the color and everything. I just, I'm trying to reduce the number of ink bottles I have, and getting rid of a few small ones right away is kind of a handy way to do it. Plus then I can put some larger bottles there. For a second I was wondering why didn't the ink swatch, oops, I forgot to do the cross stroke, will live. I was wondering why the ink swatch wasn't appearing, but there's a control on my camcorder screen that you don't see. It's right over top of it. Whoop, there it is. Alright, so a nice color. The only one out of this series of 4, and they are little bottles, that I actually liked was Jupiter Flyby. The rest are, you know, they're okay, but nothing amazing. My next pen is the more modern Skyline. It actually has a pretty nice nib. Guess what I just did? Medium nib, right? Yeah, sure, let's go with that. This is not Pale Blue Dot. This is Ackerman. Is it 2 N's? Groenmarkt Smaragd. I knew as soon as I started writing with this pen that, wait a second, this is Pale Blue Dot. So yes, this is Colorverse Pale Blue Dot. For all of you who were screaming at the camera when I did that, yeah, I apologize. That was my bad. Apparently it was my bad in the first version of this video too, because that's what's written on the first version. I actually have Pale Blue Dot written for 2 inks in a row. So I clearly, well, I told you, I wasn't happy with it, and now I've just got one more reason not to be happy with it. My beautiful Nakaya Decapod twist, which has a very nice soft fine nib. Who says you can't put a blue ink in a brown pen? The ink itself, assuming I didn't have another kerfluffle, is Iroshizuku. Shin-kai, right? Yep. Kind of a nice blue-black. One nice thing with this dot paper, gives me a little structure, but I definitely have a little more freedom than you do on lined paper, and the dots kind of disappear. I mean, not literally, but once you've written on the page, they don't jump out at you like the lined paper in some notebooks does. And then we have, oh, did you hear my furnace come on? It's kind of chilly today, and I used to be one of those, you know, I'd wait till the last possible minute to turn on my furnace. And then one day I was talking to a friend of mine, he says, you know, I always like to turn it on first time I get cold, because I know if it's not working, that's the time to find it out, not in the middle of winter. It's like, that is a really good point. So I know it works. I'm set for winter. Alright, Pelikan Stola 3. It's been a good daily writer for school, but now it's had 3 days here at home. Usually it doesn't come home, but last night, well, it's Monday now. Sunday night it came home. And it comes in a medium nib. I'm told that it still doesn't come in any other sizes, but it's a perfectly workable medium. Oh, not Pelikan Stola ink. Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Black. I kind of got the behind the scenes of another YouTuber, not a pen YouTuber, just another YouTuber, and he writes a script for all of his videos that he basically memorizes or reads off a teleprompter, I think. But, you know, a word-for-word script with all of his jokes in it and everything. And he is such a perfectionist, you know, if he messes any little thing up, he's got to reshoot that part. Not me. I just roll with it. Maybe I'm used to that because I'm a teacher and I do live performances every day and screw up all the time. Just ask my students. My next pen is a Schaefer Legacy 2. Recently had some interest on the video I did on this on my channel, which surprised me. Several comments. But anyway, Schaefer Legacy, Legacy. See, this other YouTuber would have reshot this whole scene several times. Maybe it's a good thing he doesn't... Is this a medium? It's a good thing he doesn't do pen videos, or he'd be rewriting his whole page all the time. So this is just plain old Schaefer blue, which is a perfectly nice blue. You know, Schaefer and Parker and Waterman may not have exciting colors, but their inks are perfectly good. Then we get to my Monteverde Turquoise. Just a nice steel, oh, a little bit of condensation there. Just a very nice steel nib pen. Probably a fine nib. And the ink in it is actually Lamy Turquoise. Let's just take a quick look at how this paper is faring here. Okay, we got a little soak through with a very wet pen. Almost no bleed through except with one very wet pen, so I think it'll be a winner. I think we'll stick with this journal instead of... Doggone, I liked the cover on that one too. So, sad day in the Hungarian stationery market. I will no longer be using Bomo Art Journals. Darn it! Alright, so this is an Aurora 88 with a broad nib. This is in the Jove finish. It's a Not very Jupiter-y colored. In fact, over the weekend I put up a couple posts regarding that and some of the others in their series, but very nice nib on it. Oh, what is the ink anyway? Iroshizuku Murasaki-shikibu. Which is not Japanese for purple. These inks in this series are all named after various features of Japan. So I think, if I remember right, it's some kind of a berry. There. That felt wet. And again, hardly any bleed through. Usually these notebooks I use for like writing, my videos that I have to research, I don't do scripts, but I do prepare. And I'll often outline, especially a formal review or a video where I delve into a topic. And I've been using one of these regularly for that. And it's quite nice. Okay, we get to my Waterman Carène with a nice inlaid nib. Ooh, I forgot this ink was in it, and I should have remembered from last night. That was a surprise. It's not my usual ink for this pen, which is why it surprised me. I usually like Diamine Ancient Copper or Noodler's Antietam or something, but this is a nice color too. This is Diamine Autumn Oak. And it's autumn somewhere. In fact, fall is coming very soon up here in the northern hemisphere. For my friends in the southern hemisphere, spring is coming. This is just a really nice orange. I used to have a bottle of Noodler's Apache Sunset, which I did finally use up. One of my victories. One of my few, because I got way too much ink. And, I don't know, that one probably shades better. But this one's got a nicer color. And we get to my Platinum 3776. I'm going to write this big because it's a nice coarse nib. And see, I'm not as constrained by lines. The ink in it is Platinum, Carbon Black, I really need to finish up my experiment. I have one of these on a 2-year hiatus. It's the one with the fine nib, just to test the slip and seal mechanism. Sometime this spring, I'll have to look up the date. I'll finally be able to pull it out and write with it and find out how it did after 2 years. But anyway, I think that will become the regular carrier of this ink. I really don't know why I put this ink in a coarse nib, because it's kind of a pain in the ass for addressing envelopes to use such a broad nib. Alright, and my last one is the Pelikan M1000. And I had advice with this ink to try it in a medium nib, because I remember I did a video and I complained about how pale it was. And they said they like their pale inks in a medium nib the best, and I think they're right. I mean, it's still pale, but it's much more usable. I had it, in my Lamy 80? The one that has a super broad nib, anyway. So, yeah, it's almost usable. Well, I won't say almost. It is usable in this pen. All right. I don't know if you noticed there, but partway through the video, the microphone failed too, because somebody's a dumbass. I turned off the audio recording over there to go locate the... why did I turn it off? I don't remember. When I edit it, I'll remember. But anyway, I turned off the audio recording, and when I got back over here, I didn't turn it back on. So you get camcorder audio for part of that, so sorry. So yeah, I am depressed about that Pilot Custom 823. Yeah, one of many things I'm depressed about. That Pilot, it's possible I dropped it. Hasn't gone anywhere, because I've been keeping school pens at school and home pens at home, and the Pelikan Stola, was a stowaway in my pocket on Friday. But yeah, it hasn't gone anywhere. But I do have hard floors, so maybe I dropped it and didn't know it. But the fact that it was laying in that disinfectant just makes me a little suspicious. I wish I would have had a Platinum Preppy laying in that disinfectant instead. But whether I dropped it and just don't remember it, or whether it's the disinfectant, no matter what, my fault. I was a dumbass, either way. So, yeah, I have dropped pens before. You all remember my travails, was it last school year or the year before? With the Lamy 2000 that, boop, went, well, actually I didn't drop it. I just kind of put the cap on but didn't cap it, laid it on my desk, and it rolled off. And onto that hard school floor, nib first. And now I just decided to do it to a more expensive pen, or spilled disinfectant on it. Either way, ruined it. Maybe in the comments, I'm thinking, because I haven't used it really as a daily writer. I like the Lamy 2000 better as a daily writer. And the nib is perfectly good. So the thought has crossed my mind. If I'm replacing it, would I like a broad nib better? Or medium? So, decision to be made there. Because that's a pen I'll replace. But yeah, that was depressing. And then as far as the video goes, the original writing sample, first of all, holy cow, I can't believe I didn't notice what a disaster that Bomo Art Journal was. Second of all, the video footage, totally my fault. You can't see my setup, but it's kind of cramped because I don't have a set. I don't have extra rooms in my house. So this is filmed in the living room, kind of right by the front door. In fact, while I'm filming, lights and tripods are standing in the way of opening my front door. And, I just have a very narrow area to work in. So the computer, which is running the microphone, is over here. I've got my hand kind of in front of the microphone right there. And so when I filmed the writing sample, I must have the table too close because there's a lot of thumping as I write. Well, why? Because I must have the writing surface I'm using must have been touching the table. It does actually fit just below the writing surface by about that much. So I'm guessing I had it leaned up against a leg on this desk that I use. It's a desk that folds out from the wall. And as I was putting the replacement for the Bomo Art Journal away on the bookshelf, I discovered that the thing is too wide this way to fit on the shelf, excuse me, and close the desk up. So it's going to have to sit up on top where my Apica journal that I use for reviews also sits. So, I didn't think of that one when I was deciding on a new notebook. I had another one in my hand that was thinner, but no, had to go with fatty there. So that's a little depressing. But, that's a me problem, not a you problem. A lot of times, especially if I'm filming a bunch of videos, which I've done today, I'll leave it open all day, maybe open for several days in a row, or I've got a bunch of pens lined up here for reviews, so can't close it up till I get rid of them anyway. Because, yeah, I filmed a few reviews, but did not get done with all the pens laying here. So, again, it's a me problem, not a you problem. In other exciting news, I thought I'd just give you school has started. I've finished my second full week. This coming week will be a short week thanks to Labor Day. My voice is always horrible after that first week of school. So, I knew after that first week of school, Pens in Use is probably not going to be on time. I should have filmed it earlier in the week and didn't. But my voice has been pretty good since then. I've got kind of an interesting freshman class this year. Those kind of classes are always fun because usually the kids have more personality then. You just definitely have to exercise your classroom management skills a lot more. We've had, the COVID thing. We've got kids home. I think we're up to 3 cases in the county right now, in a county of 3,000 people. But still, it's on the rise. And I suspect it'll rise more in the coming days, especially after this Labor Day, because people aren't careful. Around here, you don't see many masks still, even though we know it's effective, but that turned into a political argument rather than a scientific argument. Other exciting news, though, I did read, and, when you realize this is North Dakota, and where in North Dakota, you'll realize why this is a big deal. Minot, North Dakota, did raise a pride flag in front of its city hall for the first time, just recently. That's quite something for a city like Minot. There was a little bit of a brouhaha over the size of the flag, but that's just because somebody ordered the wrong size. But that's a big deal for Minot, North Dakota. Especially people who are kind of forced to live in the shadows by the culture in Minot. Who knows when that kind of change will start coming to smaller towns, but anyway, I thought I saw that as a sign of hope. I did buy a book. I'm nerdily excited about this. Oh, guess I gotta hold it back here. It's called Home Computers, 100 Icons That Defined a Digital Generation. And I was very excited as I started looking through it. I saw some bring back memories. Computers I wanted. Computers that I used. Like, one of the first ones is a TRS-80. My junior high school I went to, that's what the computer lab was. All TRS-80s. Commodore PET. Never had one, but I always thought they looked so futuristic, and now it's very retro. Apple IIe. My high school had a computer lab full of those. And I once entered a science fair project with one. And then elsewhere in here, I should have bookmarked pages. There's some Atari. I remember looking at the Atari, what's it say? Atari 400. It's in Sears in the Colonial Park Mall back when I was a kid, and thinking that keyboard was so cool. Couldn't buy it, of course. Now I'm glad I don't have it. Then there was, let's see. I'm looking for, there we go. This is what my family had. We had the Texas Instrument TI-99 4A. And later on, we bought the expansion box for it that had a floppy disk drive in it, had expanded the memory from 16K up to 48K, just all kinds of great stuff. And I remember years and years of loading programs off of the cassette tape. Let's see, there's 2 others I wanted to show you here. I won't find it now. But there was a Tandy 1000 in here. That's the computer I used to lust after for some reason. I don't even remember why. But then the last computer in here, when I started teaching up in a little town called West Hope, we didn't have computers in our classrooms. We didn't have internet. We didn't have any of that. We got computers shortly before the 9/11 happened. And, it was kind of handy that day for looking up what was going on. But anyway, my first computer was classroom computer was one of these guys. It was an Apple iMac. Mine wasn't the nice blue like this. Mine was pink. But still, what a revelation having a computer in your own classroom. So, very interesting book to people like me. I don't know. This is one of those books that may not be quite for everyone. Let's just be clear. I put a couple of links down below about Sturgis, the big motorcycle rally in South Dakota. We're up to around, 300 cases? No, 260, of course, according to this link. 260 cases of the virus around the country now linked to Sturgis. And there's probably more that just haven't been tested. Interestingly, in a town of 7,000 people, they went in and did mass testing afterwards, and only 650 of them were willing to be tested. Guess if I had it, I'd want to know, but that's just me. And hey, North Dakota, if you've been paying attention to the COVID maps, we're a COVID hotspot. We're the plague carriers. So I probably should be wearing my mask to talk to you so I don't spit at you through my screen. But yeah, we're a COVID hotspot. Now, not necessarily the county where I live. And interestingly, Cass County, which is where Fargo, our largest city, is located, is not. That's in one of the low areas. But Grand Forks County, Burleigh County, Stark County, those are all big COVID hotspots. And, the other exciting thing I'll just throw out there, South Dakota is done with Sturgis, so now they're going to go on and do the state fair. North Dakota canceled its state fair this year. Most counties, including mine, canceled their fairs. South Dakota is going on. I added a link also about Labor Day and a little bit about the history of Labor Day, because it is Labor Day when I'm refilming this. Labor Day, it's kind of interesting. Right, so in 1894, President Grover Cleveland signed Labor Day into law. It's kind of interesting. Around the world, they observe May Day, which is May 1st. We don't here in the United States, but there were a lot of strikes, supposed to happen around then, and met by fierce resistance. They were looking for things like an 8-hour workday and so on. But there's another link inside the article that'll take you to some actions. The authorities actually shot and killed striking workers. I guess the people in power never have liked the little guy to oppose them. Nothing's changed. The world is still the same. The powerful have the control, and the weak just have to put up with it. And if you don't, you get smushed. And we've seen some of that this year. But it's just kind of interesting. We've always opposed... It's rare that striking workers are supported by the public. Occasionally, I was heartened a little bit by how striking teachers were supported recently. I guess really hasn't been a deal this year, but last year. But at the same time, some of those same states are now trying to pass laws to make it impossible for even that much to happen. So, what's changed? And it's not just teachers. Any worker. We do see a big income disparity in this country. I'm not trying to editorialize today. I just saw a whole bunch of links. It's one of those things I think I would want to delve into possibly in a driving video. So this is more of just me sharing a couple of quick links I found. So as I lean forward, I'm scrolling through my links to make sure I just mention them all. Another one was very interesting and enlightening because Britain has a history of racism, especially against the native populations of the countries that they colonized. But the experience of black American soldiers in Great Britain was really, really different from how they experienced life here in the United States. In Britain, they were treated as equals. In fact, the article goes on about how American troops were trying to get local pubs in England to, ban black soldiers. And so some of these pubs actually went so far as to ban white American soldiers. And just the article suggests that possibly this was the beginnings, kind of those seeds that were planted for the protests that went on here later on in the United States. To, you come back from being treated like a person back to how you were treated in the United States if your skin was the wrong color. Because we have a very recent history of racism. Loving versus Virginia, that whole thing about people of two different skin colors getting married, is not that long ago. So I think it's kind of interesting that possibly the Second World War might have actually, especially since we were fighting a foe who was very into the whole racism thing, may have actually been the catalyst for what happened in this country later, and is still going on. I don't know if it's true, but definitely was an interesting way to look at it. Another one that I saw that just kind of came up on the kind of that same day, it's called The Day the Native Americans Drove the KKK Out of Town. It's about down in, was it North or South Carolina? I didn't write that down. Anyway, one of the Carolinas where the KKK tried to have one of their little rallies and rally all the white people and put everybody else down, and the Native Americans actually ran them off. So, kind of a cool story. And then there's some other things, schools getting threats over masks. A teacher was fired from a private school for some of his questions over masks. And my grandmother on my father's side actually had Alzheimer's before she died. I don't remember her from before she had Alzheimer's, so all my memories of her after she had Alzheimer's, but September is Alzheimer's Awareness Month. And then the last three links are just links about books. The first one is to Powell's Books. That's a major bookstore chain in, I want to say Portland. Does it say? Of course not. I think Portland. But anyway, a major bookstore chain out there. Not big like Barnes & Noble, but they've decided they're no longer going to sell books on Amazon, which, I kind of respect. And it got me thinking this weekend. I do try to go to other retailers, but I do rely on Amazon more than I should. So it got me thinking seriously about other retailers I can use instead of Amazon. So I've been looking into that for clothes and other things that I have to buy. Because it's not like I can buy clothes at a local store, because that one closed. So, it was just an interesting article. And then the last two articles are about Umberto Eco, who was an Italian author. He wrote Name of the Rose, is probably his most famous book. It's a murder mystery set in a monastery in Italy in the 1300s. Let's see, he wrote, was it QB something or other? Anyway, he wrote several books, but it's a tour of his library. Both books are a tour of his library, and it's huge. And a little messy, but huge. And he had this idea. I always feel bad when I look over at my shelf and see, oh, there's some books I haven't read yet. His philosophy was that you need those books on your shelf. And definitely he's not worried about being a minimalist with books. And I just found that very reassuring. So if you're a book lover, the one's just an article that talks about his philosophy. The other one is set to music, but he just walks around his library of, 30,000 books or so. So a lot more than I have. So I just thought, since fountain pen people are people of ideas, I thought you would enjoy that. So, if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And, what's your philosophy on books? Do you have books you haven't read yet at your house? Are you a minimalist? Are you a Kindle only? Do you just use the library? Let us know down in the comments. So I want to thank you for watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.